welcome to the second instalment of Erh-Tv. Today I'll be trying to lay the backstory to the biggest ERH project we've ever had. How to send 14,000 British dog tags back to the veterans and the families of the men intended to receive them. Now notice I didn't say return, you will understand why later on. Sometimes relic hunting has some very strange days. What we thought we were going to search was an old anti-aircraft battery turned into lugging home over 12,000 metal British dog tags. These ranged from World War II, pre-World War II and post-World War II. They contained almost every regiment the British Army had ever had. Instantly, we all wanted to return as many of these to the surviving soldiers or families of those soldiers as possible. So my logical approach was to go through the Royal British Legion. A couple of emails went backwards and forwards, but pretty much resulted in them saying, we're not really interested, thanks. So next, I wrote to every single newspaper, nationally, and all the local papers all around the country, and all of them saying, sorry, there's not really a story here, we're not interested. So I went down the magazine route. Armourer, Britain at War, Gunma, and any ancestry magazines I could think of and Googled, all of them said, no thanks, not interested. Fine. We went down the TV historian route. Tony Bloody Robinson, Dan Snow, Tony's people just ignored me. I guess he's too busy with his nose stuck in a Roman pot or something. Dan Snow's people said, fantastic story. However, Dan had no time to spare for this project, but wished us luck, which was nice. At least they replied. It seemed that this project had suddenly ended before it had begun. I had no idea what to do with 12,000 British Army dog tags. So I thought, well, maybe I can recoup some of the money we've spent for petrol and food and, all the time that goes into these sorts of projects. So I listed a few on eBay. And fate, it seemed, had a different card to play. I had a message sent through eBay saying that a dog tag could have been his friend's dad's dog tag. I said, well, talk to your friend, let's confirm this. If it is, I'll send it to you free of charge, no problem, you just get it in the post. I delisted all the dog tags off eBay straight away. And sure enough, he confirmed it was his friend's father's dog tag. So it was sent off to him with a covering letter. So one solitary dog tag made it home after 70 years. I pulled all of these off of eBay and stored them away back in the little trays, all by regiments. And there they sat for 2 years, and absolutely nothing happened. When I thought, right, we've got to give this another go. I've got much more time on my hand. I can devote all this time to this project. Both Jay and Alan, who recovered all these dog tags with me, returned their third shares each back to me, so those are added to the list in the hope that we can return these also. I've written to every regiment in the British Army and the museums, and not a single one is interested in helping return any of these to their former members. The museums all tell me it's an impossible task, it can't be done, you can't return any, the files aren't out there, but they'd love to have them all. Of course you would, yeah, so would everybody else. So, despite having the records, they were not prepared to help in any way. I've spent hundreds of hours Googling names and numbers and coming up with odd snippets of information from these dog tags. There's military medal winners, soldiers that won foreign medals, prisoners of war, lots of soldiers mentioned in dispatches, and hundreds listed as being wounded, all throughout World War II, from Dunkirk evacuation right until the end. And from this, we gained leads into returning a couple of dog tags. It was during one of these that the searches led me to a site called Forces War Records. I'm sure you all know the type. It's an ancestry sort of website where you subscribe, pay a membership fee, and you've got access to all their files. Now, some of the files that Forces War Records are unique to their website, and only they have them. The difference between Forces War Records and Ancestry and Societies, Forces War Records, it's all military records, so it's perfect for us. I mean, it's everything that we need is on there, if you can find it. Because sometimes they don't have a serial number to it, wasn't recorded, or the name was spelt wrong. But these happen with searching anything anywhere. It's one of those hurdles you have to jump over. But I had a look at Forces War Records website, and I instantly struck with, well, there's no way of searching by army serial number. All my dog tags have a serial number on them. It's pretty much unique to that soldier. So I was a bit shocked and thought, oh, well, that's really annoying. So I had to put in the surname and find him by the name. I thought, oh, that's really long-winded. But I saw a box that said, contact us. So I did, and I complained that there was no box to search by serial number. And I got a reply from a guy called Neil, and he said, well, you can search by serial number. You put in the surname first, then you search, then you add. I thought, oh, that's a bit long-winded. So I emailed him back again saying, is there an easy way of doing all of this? And I explained the whole project to him. And he said, that's fantastic. What an amazing project. He explained that they also have a magazine published on their website. I don't know if it's bi-monthly or what. Sorry, Neil, I should know that. And would I write an article for them? I said, yeah, I'll work on that. That's no problem. I've got lots of information on these soldiers that I found, from the military medal winners to, to the rest of them. I'll work on that alongside researching all these dog tags. So Neil said, look, let me sort you out a membership, and I'll extend it for you. That will help with the project. And Neil turned out to be quite fundamental in a lot of the starting of this project. So a big thank you, Neil. You've been wonderful with this project. Now, the best thing about Forces War Records for us is that when you save a file, it doesn't save to your computer. It just saves on the website under your login. But if somebody else has saved or saves after you saved it, you can message them directly. So every dog tag I then punch into Forces War Records that gets a hit, I save the file. So if somebody else has saved it, I can send them a message saying, look, I've got a dog tag for this soldier. If you're a family member, contact me. We'll get it back to you. If somebody saves after I've saved one, then it happens again. I'll get notified that somebody saved it. I can send them a message saying, look, I've got the dog tag for this person. Are you a family member? Let's get it back to you. So it was one of these random searches where I got a hit on a dog tag, F Bills, and I sent the message off saying, I've got this dog tag. We'd love to return it. And I got a reply from a man called John, who said it was his father's dog tag, and he explained he's very wary of this being a big scam. I said, okay, that's fine. Join our Facebook page. There's hundreds and hundreds of people on there that can tell you about this story, and we can show you pictures of everything. And we can be quite open. You can talk to whoever you like. There's also limited information on our website because at the time, I don't even remember one, so it was I think a one page read at the time. And you can ask everybody questions, and when you're happy, we'd get it back to you. John said, that's fantastic, And then he explained that his dad was still alive and spoke about his time in the army very fondly. And I thought, wow, that would be amazing to be able to go and hand this dog tag back in person, to the guy that was intended to have it. And he said, okay, we can sort this out. If we all meet at my house, my dad can already be there. He can stay the weekend. You can come to us. I'll just tell him that you're there to talk to him about his time in the army, and you can surprise him with the dog tag. Whenever you feel fit. Fantastic. So the day came. We travelled all the way down, and had a fantastic. I don't know how many hours we were there talking about his time in the army. Some amazingly funny stories to some sobering moments of his friends getting wounded and guys getting killed. Absolutely incredible, and some real funny material about chickens that they were trying to keep on the back of the tank that escaped in an artillery barrage. And they were so worried about these chickens that they just jumped out of the tank and were running around in hellfire, trying to recover these chickens because they didn't want anything to happen to them. Because they supplied them with fresh eggs, you see, a very valuable commodity that they were swapping for fags and other food. Their sergeant being not very impressed with them running around, under all this barrage of fire. So all these crazy stories from Fred Bill's time, all on the website, and they're absolutely incredible. But when I handed the dog tag over to Fred, he looked at it and was shocked to see his name and number on there, but then said, well, I've never seen that before in my life, which was a bit of a shock, but not totally unexpected, because we know these dog tags were different, and they had their own story to tell if only we could work out what it was. Now, until we found these, any collector will tell you all British dog tags that are metal are post-World War II. Before we dug these, I would confirm that to be 100% true, just like everybody else. But when you look at the serial numbers, it's very clear that the bulk of these are World War II serial numbers. It would seem that these were not issued. Certainly Fred Bill's wasn't issued his. So we can assume fairly certainly at this point that none of these dog tags were ever issued. All of the names and the numbers on these were from serving soldiers. Not soldiers to be recruited or ones that could possibly be recruited. These all served. Some of which were pre-World War II, and some as early as 1934. We've got a band member from Sandhurst, and he was serving in 1934. So I don't know when he enlisted. You're starting to look at all the details that I've been recording from Forces War Records and other sources on my database. I noticed a trend that all of the files were made by Royal Armoured Corps, Royal Tank Regiment, or reconnaissance. Despite the numbers being issued by everybody, Dragoons, East Lancs, Sherwood Foresters, Medical Corps, Logistics, Signals, they all ended up with these 3 units, with the exception, of course, to a couple. One being a commando, and there's a couple of paratroopers. I'm sure there's others in there that we haven't got results for, which are from really obscure units. A short while after we returned Fred Bill's dog tag, I asked on ERH Forum if anybody would be interested in helping with this project, because I was overwhelmed. I just didn't know which direction to steer this in. I got a reply from Katie Mishler. Now, if ERH had a first lady, I guess she would be it. I'll let Katie tell you in her own words how she got involved with this project and her background history. Over to Katie in the US.
Hi, I'm Katie Mishler, and the background for me into military history and research began when I was a little girl growing up in the Philippines. We moved to the Philippines when I was 5 years old, and I came back to the States when I was almost 19. Of course, it was a really rich country full of World War II history that always fascinated me. So as an adult, as I began to cultivate my research skills and passion about military history on all fronts, I began to network with people all over the world and start doing research projects. This involved dozens of different types of research projects. It involved people contacting me from different parts of the world. They might have found artifacts or identity bracelets, dog tags, lots of different items like that, and they've contacted me over the years, and we've been able to return them to the families. That's something that I've worked on with people all over the world. Other types of projects are just locally, people that I know locally, helping them connect with their fathers or grandfathers' war experiences, researching their unit histories, researching exactly where they were, when they were there, what they did, sort of illuminating the gap between the civilian and military world, and describing and explaining things to families in a way that makes sense to them. Another thing is working with families of KIAs. This is a really important thing to me, because a lot of times the information of how their loved one died, or where, or the circumstances surrounding it, that's all lost to the families, passed down, almost 75 years later. And so it's really important for me to be able to help the families know what that was, provide them photos of graves, and sometimes even file for their Purple Hearts, because the families just never received one, or never, it was lost over the years, or it never came. So that's always been a really important part of the work that I do with people that I meet and people who contact me. So when I began to get to know the guys at Extreme Relic Hunters, Alan and Jay and Dan, many years ago, about the inception of the group. And so they let me into the group, and I began learning so much about the artifacts that they were pulling out of the ground, really researching the Commonwealth troops more heavily, and the involvement that they had in World War II all over the world. And so that was something that was super beneficial for me as a researcher and someone who was learning. So Dan, several years back, found the thousands and thousands of dog tags in the ground. That was such an exciting discovery, and we were all sort of aghast at Extreme Relic Hunters about that. And about last year, almost a year ago, Dan asked for some help, and it was a very easy choice for me to segue all my research abilities and skills and connecting people to people to the Extreme Relic Hunter project of our Forgotten Army Dog Tag project. So Dan had been cataloging all these different soldiers, and so I began to connect the soldiers' tags to the families. Shout out to ringbritain.com. They provide an amazing rate, so I can call the UK for virtually nothing. I think it's 1 cent a minute to call Britain, and so so I get on the phone and I start, first of all, I find the families, when it comes to Ancestry or Find My Past, several other different databases, and then I'm able to connect them to their kids and then their grandchildren. And it's really exciting to be able to call the families up and say, hey, we have something that belongs to your family, do you want it? It's the greatest joy. It's super exciting. The families are completely flabbergasted. It brings a lot of joy. It brings a lot of emotion. And the most wonderful thing about it is it brings the outpouring of love that they had for their fathers or grandfathers and the stories that came with him. And so I'm really excited that we're able to document that, and we're able to sort of hold these men up. They were all enlisted men. They were all guys who are the lifeblood of the Commonwealth troops. They were then, and they still are today, and they will be in the future. And in my opinion, these men don't get the recognition or the honor that's due them. They're always so very humble, and they just sort of seamlessly blend back into society. And it's really important to be able to sort of shine a spotlight on them and to celebrate them, to commemorate them, and to memorialize them. One part that I love about doing this is that for every man that we've been able to connect a dog tag to, the families to this day, 75 years later almost, have the memory of men who were killed while their dad fought next to them. And the memories of those men who didn't make it home are very much a part of this project as well. And so I just feel like it's an important thing that we're able to do. So very seldom do you get to give something back to the families. In my line of research, a lot of times you're contacting people and you're asking for information, you're asking for help, you're asking for the family to give of themselves so selflessly, even again, about their loved ones. And so it's a real pleasure and privilege to be able to return something back to the families. This project hopefully will be going on a very long time. We have thousands and thousands of dog tags to return, and I'm just so pleased and that we're going to be able to share some of the stories of the veterans with you. And I hope that you'll stick along for the ride. And we appreciate the support, and we appreciate the help that we've been given. I appreciate the people who take my phone call. I'm an American. I work out of the States, and I appreciate the families that take my phone call and listen to me and give me the benefit of the doubt that I'm not trying to scam them. We do return all of our tags for free to the families. We don't ever ask for any money. And this is important because, otherwise I don't think we would even return one tag home. So we're really excited to get as many tags as we possibly can home, and to shine a spotlight on these men, these wonderful men. And their stories are coming out, and they're just brilliant. So thank you very much.
So, after Trooper Bills got his dog tag, I found myself back to cleaning, sorting and researching dog tags all over again. The database I transferred to a Google document, and Katie and I could work on it at the same time. I could see information being recorded literally straight away. Katie had started by researching some of the more unusual surnames like Squirrel, Dolphin, Whackim, Oakhill, Followell, just to name a few. The database was edited to include new columns, formulas were put in place to work out which unit issued a dog tag, and pie charts were generated to help us understand what these dog tags were all about. One thing we knew for sure was that what everybody believed when metal dog tags were post-World War II wasn't going to be true anymore. Although we still had no idea what these dog tags were all about, why they were made, why they were dumped. It would take some time before we would know what it was all about. It would involve Katie travelling to the UK, the help of the BBC, and most importantly Mark Smith from the Antique Roadshow to get to the bottom of it. See you in next week's episode, Erh-Tv.